been trans about 12, 13 years, but at least as far as being out or starting to come out. And things have changed a lot since then. And people like to think, oh, it's changed. Like people from my side want to think, oh, it's changed for the better, but it's actually just gotten way worse. And I'm going to illustrate that is I actually wrote a small list. Off the top of my head, though, I do know Pride was $5 the NN, which just seems like not a big deal. But if you have like no job or no income and such not, it's a lot of trans, like actual trans folk. They have a hard time finding employment. Like such as myself, there's only one job that I actually do have that's legit, and it's because someone works with me and whatnot. But I mean, I got to wear man clothes and stuff, which I can deal with that for so long, but I can't sustain it. But they work with me. I could take time off, I can come back. But it'd be like if someone was like asking you if you're a man and you're just going to your day job, let's say you're working in an office, and or like here you got to wear this dress. Like it's sort of like that. It's humiliating to wear man clothes for me. So a lot of trans folk they don't they or it happens a lot with teenagers too. They'll try to come out whatnot. Their parents will kick them out the home, or maybe they're 18 or 19 or something. They're just getting out. They're just trying to figure things out. But like there's too much of a disconnect from being forced into something that's just so against what you internally how you express yourself, and that leads to like depression and suicide and whatnot. If it's forced, if you're forced to stay in a situation, it's like staying in a terrible, terrible marriage with someone you don't really want to be with. And the other flip side of that, the other thing that causes suicides and whatnot is being kicked out on the street, having your family turn your back on you and all that sort of shit. So there's a huge amount of, especially trans, but just, LGBT in general, but especially trans because it's the most outwardly, you can still be gay and still have a job and keep it on the down low and not be too like offset. So if you have no income and whatsoever, and the other thing about it wasn't just the $5. $5 really anybody come up with that really. There's one way or another you can hustle it. But the kicker is to the Pride event that went by recently. You couldn't bring your own water. You couldn't bring your own snacks. So like if I went and got water from a fountain with my water bottle, at the search to go get to go in, they would take that away from me and tell me I have to buy water. I have to buy gay water from the event, which like I didn't go, but I know that shit's like airport prices. So like to go to Pride and not die of dehydration and starvation and whatnot, you probably gotta have like 50, 60, throw in like 50, 60 bucks. And I don't know what other nonsense like they had to sell. There's probably all sorts of gimmicky shit you're gonna sell there. But then if you're poor, you're gonna go there and you're gonna see all these fucking rich, basically rich to me, but not really super rich. I mean, people can afford like 50 pairs of shoes or whatever, or drag shoes, right? Which I mean, it's another thing as far as like they can afford fucking 50 dildos, right, for their sex parade shit. Meanwhile, there's actual people who are like starving and shit, like or they're forced into sex work just to get a meal. So they don't actually give two flying fucks about like they only give a fuck about themselves and the illusion that they're a part of this big group. Uh, and they have fundraisers and shit, which I found out because I was looking up, like some different stats. It's kind of my own like perspective of like where do I fit into all this being broke as I am and whatnot. And I found out like, oh, the Detroit Tigers were doing a fundraiser to make sure minors can get fucking puberty blockers and whatnot. Like they're not they're not doing it for like, oh, we need affordable housing for people who are LGBT and whatnot, or we need to get people off the streets. They're kicked out of their homes. They're like, no, we're going to take the money that we fundraise and put it towards the fucking Satan agenda. Which it is like the Satan agenda. Like it should be like, and all the people that really really vocalize for it and say, oh, we need this, we need this. A lot of those motherfuckers are rich motherfuckers. Like there's a lot of like drag queens are not trans. So they really shouldn't speak on trans issues because they can still maintain their cushy office job and making a whole fuckload of money and all that. They don't have the same struggle, and then they taking that struggle away. It's kind of like a litmus test. So now we're being diluted because they're like taking they're channeling all this money into converting into like grooming. That's what it is, grooming kids and shit to take on this confused identity that they didn't really choose. And they just get a little, like it's normally questioned back and forth, like the struggle of saying like fuck this shit. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fucking endure whatever I gotta endure to be me. Like it's sort of a way like it toughens your skin, but it also proves like, hey, yeah, like there's actually something internally going on that naturally that causes you to be this way. Otherwise, you wouldn't undertake all this suffering in order to do so. But now you make it a fancy fad thing. So 10, 15 years ago, like, the trans movement was just starting to get some momentum, and it was like, okay, it was like easier to come out now and whatnot, and just go to the store and not be like completely harassed or get your ass beat, whatever. It made it easier just to bring up an everyday conversation where it's like, oh, we don't talk about that, or like, you could be like, hey, I am who I am, and not and be demonized for it, but at least he was like, okay, well, it's being somewhat socially acceptable, so I can still function. Maybe eventually, we get like, it would be so like I could work a fucking normal job, and just wear what I want. Not like, I mean, obviously there's uniforms and shit, but like you can't like I wouldn't be able to have like when I could do my man job, I got to put my hair in a ponytail and whatnot, like it's like I'm a man, just because it would just fuck things up, because it's like I've got to work with a lot of public people, and it's like really big manly environment kind of thing, and it would cause problems. And I appreciate the person who like gives me the legit work and whatnot, so I suck it up for a few days, but I've tried doing it consistently, and it eats away, because it's like a double life. A double life takes a lot of energy out of a person. But these let me look at the list real quick, because I'm not sticking to the list, but I'm definitely... It's definitely a pyramid scheme. Oh, there are some trans folk that like there was one person that left their cushy job in Florida, as there was, and they I'm not sure who exactly the name is, but I remember the story. I got leaves on me still from being outside. So they came to Detroit, and they kind of started from like rock bottom, nothing, and they had like all the like all these hopes and ambitions, but like the shit's really fucking hard, especially if you're gonna stick to being like how you are, and the general everything's just kind of unaccepting. So it's like, well, you don't get no work, you ain't gotta do this, so you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. And so this person eventually, they did get to a little bit of success, and then they were able to share that, and sort of like create like sort of a halfway house for people such as myself. So that was an example. That would be like like something, I guess, actual pride is what they like call it. There's like drop-ins and sort of that sort of shit. But this isn't even just a drop in. A lot of those are funded by like bigger money and whatnot, and they have agendas. This is just like a trans person that struggled along their way to get to a modest amount of success, enough that they're able to help other trans folk. And we make such a small tiny percent of the population, but there's this huge dichotomy where like I guess half of us are fucking like well off and just loaded with like money, and it's just like it's like it's egotistical, like the feminine aspect that comes from an internal quality. Like, it's not something you can just buy off a shelf. But their egotisticalness is like, oh, well, I'm just gonna buy like this outfit and I'm gonna become a girl, which is like dumb. But that's like the immature sort of second puberty phase. Like, you get some feminine clothes and you're like, oh, okay, I can express myself this way. But then it becomes a lot about the external, and it takes a little while to get back to the internal and put that as the forefront. And that comes through like a lot of struggle and shit. But as far as like the rich half, the rich in my book, they can afford whatever the fuck they want, and so they can pay $100, $200, $300 for the fancy, expensive stripper boots, which is like the only boots that they make for trans people. So they can feed into these stereotypes, whereas like the fucking person on the street, they can't afford shit. It's just they get hand-me-down clothes and whatnot that are like raggedy and what. Like, I've had my clothes for fucking years. So there's like this big thing, like pride. Like, we're gonna be prideful about LGBT, but then like the other half of the LGBT aren't even fucking invited. Like, it's like you're gonna feel like shit. Like, you're gonna go there, you're gonna be looking like shit. You're gonna be like smelling probably like shit because you haven't had a shower, and then they want you to pay, like I don't know, probably like $3 or $4 for a bottle of water or some shit. Like, and then you're gonna be around a bunch of people that are just like parading around, and a whole bunch of excess. Like, because that's what a lot of it actually is just gluttony, it's greed, it's excess. Like, I can't say debauchery, but it's another word for excess that would really fucking hit it. I can't quite think of it. But they live in an extreme excess, and they don't actually give a fuck about the people on the bottom, except as a talking point to justify shit. Like, oh, we need to raise money for LGBT causes because there's all these homeless people. Okay, they don't even say that, but okay, let's say they did. Then they would take that money and be like, okay, how can we use this to fucking groom minors? Like, it's too fucked up. Oh, man. It's too fucked up. I got like a few seconds left. Yeah, it's really, I guess that's it, because I looked at my thing and it's too unorganized. I'm not good at taking the greatest notes yet, so that's about what I had. In summary, I hope I made my case and it made some sort of point. Got something across. It's doing what I can. As the videos I do earlier, but I did the other videos instead. So that's that.